This is the new quantum era. I'm your host, Sebastian Hassinger. Most of my guests on this show are researchers, engineers, or founders, people who are building quantum hardware or software or trying to understand the physics well enough to know what's actually possible. Richard Entrup is something different, and I think that's exactly why this conversation is worth having. I was invited to moderate a panel on the progress in quantum technologies at the KPMG Tech and Innovation Symposium in Deer Valley a few weeks back. And while I was there, I recorded a number of in-person interviews, which I've been airing since I got back. The episode with Aaron Kemp, Senior Director of Quantum Research and Engineering Innovation at KPMG, came out a couple weeks ago, and it provided an up-close view of what Aaron and his team are up to. The team that he leads and the practice they are building are the result of Richard's vision of the emerging relevance of quantum technologies to KPMG's clients. Before Richard became Managing Director of Emerging Solutions at KPMG US, he spent decades as a CIO, CTO, CDO, and CISO at some very large, very recognizable organizations. Verizon, Christie's, Disney ABC, Time Warner, Tiffany Company. He's not a physicist. He's the person who, for 30 years, was on the receiving end of technology transitions. The one who had to figure out what the internet actually meant for a media company, or what cloud migration actually cost a global retailer, or what a security breach actually looked like from the inside of the organization trying to contain it. That background shapes everything about how he thinks about quantum. When he talks about post-quantum cryptography migration, he's not talking about it as an abstract policy question. He's talking about it as someone who knows what it's like to try to get budget approved for something that hasn't happened yet, to coordinate a technology change across hundreds of upstream and downstream partners, to explain a cryptographic vulnerability to a board that doesn't know what RSA 2048 is and doesn't particularly want to. When I moderated the quantum panel on stage at the symposium, what struck me was how different the conversation felt when the audience is enterprise clients rather than quantum researchers. The questions shift, the stakes feel different, the timeline pressure is real in a very different way. In this conversation, we get into what Richard calls the bad quantum and the good quantum, the risk side and the opportunity side, and why he thinks most organizations are underestimating both. We talk about why Q-Day's exact date is almost beside the point, and why the more important question is how long it actually takes a large organization to find, prioritize, budget for, and remediate its cryptographic exposure. We talk about what crypto agility means in practice, why AI is accelerating the threat timeline in ways that don't get enough attention, and what the early internet analogy does and doesn't tell us about where quantum is headed. I also push him a bit on the harder questions about vendor independence when you're deeply partnered with specific hardware players, about whether the Big Four advisory model is the right vehicle for the problem that may move faster than enterprise governance ever has, and about what it actually means to be prepared for quantum in a way that's measurable rather than aspirational. Richard is a practitioner translator, and I think that's a rare thing in this field. You'll find his perspective useful whether you're inside a large organization trying to figure out where to start, or you're on the technology side trying to understand how your work lands when it reaches the boardroom. Here's my conversation with Richard Entrup. Richard, hello. Thank you for joining me. I'm quite excited to have you here and have this conversation. Can you start with sort of a brief intro and a background?
Sure. Thanks, Sebastian. Great to see you in Deer Valley last week, by the way.
Yes. Thank you for the invite and the hosting.
Yeah, it was a great event. So I sit within the Enterprise Innovation Group for KPMG, the U.S. member firm. I've been with the firm almost 4 years now, and my role is really to identify and help commercialize emerging technologies I came into the firm back in 2022 with the Gen AI flag before everyone
Right.
had even heard of ChatGPT, and helped get that practice and those services going. The last 18 months or so, I've been pretty much focused on quantum computing, as you know, and how we came to know each other. In
Yes.
addition to my day job of commercializing frontier tech, I also, as you know, serve as curator for the annual KPMG Tech and Innovation Symposium, which is really focused on providing our clients and prospects with a board level perspective and C level perspective on frontier technologies and what it means to their business. So great to be
Right.
here, and always great to see you, Sebastian.
Yeah, likewise. So, I mean, it's a fascinating job, and as you said, I'm sure Gen AI and LLMs have been really dominating the both your day to day life and also the symposium itself in terms of topics and themes. When did quantum sort of start emerging on the symposium stage?
So we had a quantum track going back. I've been curating the event now since 2023. This was my fourth year, our ninth total. I think we had a quantum track 2 years ago. Aaron Kemp on my team had was on a panel, and we did a talk back then where we were tracking quantum and just developing our PQC, post quantum cryptography services. Last year, we went much deeper at the symposium on quantum. We had our partners from Microsoft, IBM, and a few startups in the space actually do keynotes on the subject. We did a panel, and as you know, this year, just last week, we did a quantum computing panel with Rigetti and Kipu, and that you moderated wonderfully. Thank you, by the way.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we
you.
and we also did a breakout session, which was built to serve as an interactive component to the event, and that provided our clients with the ability to really get their hands dirty and ask questions in a much more intimate setting than the main stage. And I
Hmm.
was in that session actually with Aaron and others, and that went really well. I was at a table with several board members who didn't know anything about quantum computing, and they left really pleasantly surprised with the value
Hmm.
they got from the overall event, but also that specific breakout session on quantum and what it means to their portfolio companies as a board member
Hmm.
as it relates to risk. So we've been at this for a while. This is our third year now. In addition to the symposium, as you also know, we launched an inaugural quantum consortium at our beautiful lake house down in Orlando, and that was March of this year, and that was a dedicated event just to quantum. And again, we had our friends from IBM and Microsoft, yourself, many startups, VCs, board members, luminaries, academics, and everyone in between the ecosystem to really have a conversation around our brand, around this topic that's emerging and coming really fast as we're all watching in real
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, I mean the evolution of the sort of the amount of time you're devoting to it in the symposium and now with the dedicated consortium is definitely a reflection of the growing the progress the fact that some people call it Q Day is drawing closer. Do you think that's your role and KPMG's role is to sort of get that message across to your customers, help them receive that and understand the timelines and the priorities at this stage? Is that kind of the goal here?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, the goal is to build a viable practice and commercialize a service offering to clients. But quantum PQC specifically sits at a risk level, right? It's not an opportunity to leverage quantum for competitive advantage. PQC is more about managing risk, which is a board directive and imperative and C-level and the C-suite. So, and KPMG is known for sitting in a trusted framework, whether it's AI or technology or even our primary business of audit and tax and advisory services. Trusted is a tenet of success for the firm, and we double down on that in everything we do. And boy, this PQC and the ability to protect an organization's data and cryptography from quantum certainly sits in that trusted framework, if anything
Yes.
does. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
we're we're
It's a good
we're all
fit.
in on it. Yeah, it is, and it was actually, to Aaron's credit and others in the organization, it was an easy bridge for us to bring in post quantum cryptography because it's kind of a cybersecurity thing, and we maintain a large cybersecurity practice, as you can imagine, and PQC just fit into that nicely. The quantum computing thing, like now we built a research group. Aaron's now leading a bunch of researchers, and we're having client conversations about real opportunities with material science and others. I can't go into it too deeply, but we're producing white papers, and we launched that side, which we call the good quantum. But the bad quantum is definitely imminent. I think lots of boards and CISOs are finally realizing, as a result of all the signals out there in the industry, like the executive orders in the US specifically, I think quantum risk is now something that's top of mind for folks, and they're starting to dig in
Yeah.
as they should.
Yeah. Yeah, in the panel, I sort of walked through a little bit of the, the sort of the major news beats of the last 12 to 18 months of the accelerating, efficiency of the algorithms on the algorithmic side, and error correction side, and also the maturing sort of hardware roadmaps that we're seeing. If you had to guess, what do you think Q Day is actually? What's the date you would guess for Q Day?
Oh, you're not gonna catch me on that one. Sorry, I am not gonna
I had to
even.
try, Richard.
It's that's that's fun. Aaron definitely has an opinion on the matter, as do several friends. I think the more important question is not when Q Day is. It's not if, but when. I'll say that. And I think it could be 5 years, could be 3 years, could be 10 years. The fact is, organizations, and again, I sat before I joined KPMG, I sat for decades as a CIO, CTO, managing IT for some of the largest organizations in every sector. Like, it's gonna take companies 5 or 10 years to identify, to even find it, and then prioritize it, and then get the budget and go and remediate and develop a crypto agile framework, because and that's the bigger concern, not when, because it is going to happen. The fact is, they're not going to be ready, and that's the scary
Right.
part. It's not a
Right.
Y2K situation where there's a hard date that
There's a
we're all
hard
moving
date. Yeah.
towards. There is
Yeah.
no hard date, so it's really nebulous to a lot of organizations to have to allocate funds to something that they're not sure when it's going to happen. It could happen. It might. I don't think the consensus is it might. I think the consensus is it's gonna happen, and the trajectory now of qubit stabilization enough to get RSA cracked anyway, like, that's coming. Like, that's not some cold fusion thing, out there. Like, I think, again, the bigger concern, and on the board and the C-suite owns this, is managing the risk, protecting the organization from threats, and this is a big one because crypto is running throughout, I think a single laptop, I think, has several hundred or 700 individual cryptography components to it. That's one
Wow.
laptop. You've got
Yeah.
servers and routers and anything with an IP address plugged into a network that
Yeah.
is susceptible to hacking, and then add to that the harvest now, decrypt later thing, depending
Yes.
on your compliance and regulatory guidelines. Like, this is a huge thing that just, from my perspective, is not getting the energy it deserves at this point.
I agree. I agree. And I suppose in part, I mean, I was talking to Aaron in my interview with him, and the Q prep, the framework that he developed, as part of your team looking at PQC. I made the comparison to Y2K because it feels like a similar sort of, at least, scale. Like, you have to look at everything. But you're right. I mean, it's different than Y2K in that there isn't a specific date that's on the calendar that we know about. But the other similarity, I guess, is that it feels like there's a foundational sort of systems auditing, control, hygiene that needs to be developed, which is beneficial regardless of the actual date, or the, when Q day arrives, and how, the having a better sense of what your assets are and where your information is flowing, and that's just good across the board. I would think that would be sort of a part of the KPMG messaging, right?
Absolutely. Again, Sebastian, having sat on the client side for so long, I mean, I know a lot about this. Organizations don't manage their cryptography, even the certs
Mm,
renewals. Certificate renewals of SSL certs for websites was like a challenge. It's probably still is. And
right.
it would always, they would expire, websites would go down, the phone
Yeah.
calls would happen reactively, we'd renew it. in a hurry, call in a favor with whoever had the cert, and get the website back up. Like, they're going to change all that now. It's going down to, I think, 30 days eventually. It's heading its way down. The renewals of certificates
Right.
is going from 365 down to 200. They're going to move it to 30 days. That's kind
Wow.
of a test drill, I think, for
Yeah.
this. I mean,
Interesting.
yeah, the biggest thing that's going to change around cryptography and managing it within the organization is you're not going to be able to set it and forget it like RSA
Right.
got put in 30 years ago, and we haven't touched it. You just renew the certs or TLS, whatever it is, RSA, ECC, AES, like, no one talked about it, no one worried about it because it was set and forget. Like, moving
Mhm.
forward, that's not gonna be the case because the remediation of this is to put in quantum resistant algorithms and cryptography. Oh, by the way, they've already been compromised, right? You
Right.
saw Anthropic's Hawk already cracked one. So now
Yeah.
try explaining that to the board. Hey, we have to replace all this legacy cryptography with new stuff. Oh, by the way, one of the new things, recommendations already got hacked, so we're
Yeah.
gonna have to just
By
crypto
AI.
agility. Yeah. So look, AI is expediting all of this. I
I
mean,
know.
if AI is doing one thing, the use case is reading code and cracking it for sure. That's pretty scary. So
It is.
the future framework for the enterprise around cryptography is going to be. It sounds like a marketing buzzword, but it is what it is. It's crypto agility. You're going to have to set it
Yeah.
and monitor it and watch it
Yeah.
and be ready to change it again once the future AI cracks it.
It's really interesting. I mean, agility is the right term because it, as you said, it has to be a dynamic process, not sort of a, as you said, set it and forget it, and then move on to other things. It's going to have to be part of your daily hygiene, basically, on a dynamic basis. As you said, the first set of post quantum crypto algorithms they're new, and if we know anything about crypto, like newness is not a good thing in an algorithm, right? It's like we don't know what we don't know about the vulnerabilities of those algorithms.
Well, look, the NIST recommendations are as good as it gets right now,
Yeah,
but the fact is no one knows if they're uh, fortified enough to protect us because we
right.
don't have the quantum computers available
That's right.
enough of scale of one anyway to crack it or even test them for that matter.
Yeah,
So the NIST recommendations around the cryptography solutions are just here's what we think might work, but
right,
we don't
right.
know, but anyway, it's anyway. All that equates to risk, like anything else.
Yeah,
And again, the board imperative, the C-suite imperative, is to protect client, employee data, intellectual property. This is a very much a data protection issue that should be addressed with a certain level of urgency, not necessarily around the Q day, but more about the time it's going to take and the effort. This is not just the
right.
CISO, right? This is going to be the software engineering app dev guys. There's going to be a huge change management component. This is going to be all your partners upstream and downstream, by the way, who have to also be compliant in this solution because you're currently talking to them via APIs and transactions. That
Right.
stuff's going to break. It's not going to work if you change your crypto and they don't. So this is
Yeah.
a massive Cambrian
Yeah.
um, undertaking from an IT perspective that I don't think people are appreciating to this point. And
Yeah.
again, this is not sales speaking. This is the
No,
former CIO CISO hat speaking. This is scary stuff that's just not at the level of urgency I believe it should be at this
yeah.
point.
Yeah. Yeah, and that chicken and egg problem you just described, we don't have the machines to really test the algorithms, the post quantum crypto algorithms in earnest. We have theoretical basis for modeling that, but there's sort of a similar challenge when you shift over to, as you call it, the good side of quantum, the new potential applications and use cases that can create value instead of breaking encryption, right? I mean, how do you think organizations um, tackle that challenge of like figuring out what they can do with quantum computers before they exist?
Well, that's a challenge, right? I mean, organizations don't like to allocate funds towards like R&D. I mean, they do, right? Most quantum departments I'm aware of usually sit within innovation groups.
Hmm.
IT doesn't even have it, right? It's just
Right,
beyond IT. Data science groups, those folks are the ones that are looking to leverage running algorithms against data sets to solve real complex problems. That's what this is. And that's not like a lot of people in the organization. So I think that now we're shifting from risk to opportunity, and
hmm
it should be tracked. the organization should at least keep a finger on the pulse of the opportunity of quantum, talking to startups, keeping VCs, watching the progress of the big players, the IonQ and PsiQuantum and Continuum, Microsoft, IBM, and what they're all doing. Do you have to understand modalities? Probably not. Like, look, boards and C-suites, non-techies, are not going to be
Hmm.
analyzing the differentiating competitive advantage of quantum modalities anytime soon. That's just not going
Right.
to happen. However, boards and C-suites are very much about business objectives, right? Growing
Hmm.
revenue, maintaining competitive advantage, developing new products, engagement and conversion and retention of customers, and all of the traditional business objectives. How does quantum support that? It will, once it's pervasive and readily available. I mean, everything from supply chain and all the optimization opportunities for telcos placing antennas and biotech and pharma and healthcare. Like quantum, I mean, AI has a great promise as well as a
Hmm.
peril. I think quantum is exponentially even larger problems can be solved with quantum computing. But right now, we're very much in the infrastructure discussion phase.
Hmm. Hmm.
Respectfully, we're still pretty much in the infrastructure discussion phase around AI. We're still
It's
talking about
probably true.
GPUs and data
Yeah.
centers, and power and energy. And we're not talking in use cases and jobs to be done
Right.
and business outcomes. It's getting there slowly. AI is getting there now. Now people are
Yeah.
looking for ROI and business value. They're measuring the token burn, and they're actually starting to look at what they're spending on it relative to ROI, and making their employees more efficient and engaging, better engagement with their customers and clients and patients. So that's all coming. Quantum's still very much sitting in the how many logical qubits can we maintain in
Right.
a stable state? Um, the modalities are what differentiates these universities and or solutions. So it's very much all about infrastructure. It's like mainframes, right? Circa 1957 at
Hmm.
this point.
Hmm.
No one's talking about the business outcomes yet. There's been some case studies, right? The HSBC one, I think, raised
Right.
a lot of eyebrows about the gains they had in derivatives and others. But, yeah, that's something that I think has a longer tail than the risk of PQC does.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's something that look, we've had some pretty fruitful discussions with clients in all sectors around quantum computing. Some are further on than others by sector. I mean, it depends on the culture and how much of an R&D function they have in place. But, your big financial institutions, big insurance, healthcare, pharma, they all have quantum practices, and they're looking at it. They're partnered, and looking to for competitive advantage with it for sure. But that's going to
Yeah.
be a ways off. Going to be a ways off, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're building with Aaron sort of a research team looking at the good quantum, which is a phrase I can feel already. I'm going to be using that, but I'll attribute to you. Don't worry. Um, is that primarily to fulfill KPMG's advisory role? In other words, like get smart about quantum as it's emerging, so that you are in a position to inform your boards and C suites of your customers.
Absolutely. So we built the PQC practice, we incubated it, we handed it off to our cyber tech risk team, and now they're off and running, selling it as a core service of advisory under our cyber practice. And next is research. The research function really initially has been developed to do exactly that, right? Produce research papers, build the ecosystem, partner with the universities, partner with the startups and VCs, maybe make some strategic minority investments as we do through our ventures team in emerging tech. And just you got to be in it, right? You have to be doing something. Every SI, every big four, even large management consulting firms they're tracking this. All the
Hmm.
analysts are tracking this. This is a thing. It's coming, not if but when, and it's always good to be early. We're making a minority investment at this point in the research function, but we're getting client discussions, and I think we'll have hopefully we'll have something that we can a joint co-experimentation project with a very interesting client sometime
Hmm.
in our fiscal 27, which will be next year,
Right.
that I think will prove out. that this was worth doing. Also educating, like Aaron and his team, they speak to boards and C-suite
Right.
clients all the time about the opportunity and the risk of this. So again, we've made a strategic investment in building out this research function. It's not huge current yet, but we've got the relationships. We're an IBM partner. We're also partnered with IBM, and Google and Microsoft through other channels, but obviously Quantum as well. We're a member of the Chicago Quantum Exchange.
Hmm.
We're conducting our own consortium, as you know, building the ecosystem, and these are all the strategic components that you have to do to build out a new practice of any kind in any
Yeah.
frontier tech. And we're tracking it, and I think we're doing it quite well.
That's great. And you mentioned, I mean, I'm not surprised to hear that, the research team sort of briefs customers, engages with customers, sort of get them, in that advisory role kind of function. But you mentioned in fiscal 27, announcing a collaboration with a client. Would that be, I mean, obviously you can't talk about it in detail, but just in broad strokes, is that to help them develop something that might turn into a new line of business or new tool or process internally for that client, or is it a collaborative development of something that has more of a market facing function?
It could be either, honestly.
Okay.
The initial intention was for us to conduct what we call an ignition session and identify those business problems to solve through design thinking workshops. Very Clay Christensen,
Hmm.
disruptive innovation 101. And we identified several very key strategic opportunities for this organization to leverage quantum computing for all kinds of problems around their business, which I can't go into, but it could go either way. It could be something that we would just provide and help them build as a service, and we gain the benefit of helping them do that. It's a billable service, and
Hmm.
or which is something we potentially do a JV or go to market together with
Hmm.
to provide to they would get exclusive licensing of it, whatever the
Right.
widget is.
Right.
But then we would also, through a joint venture of some kind, also commercialize it together and go to market with it so that other companies might be able to get
Interesting.
access to it. And there'll be a third leg on that, which would be the actual technology company involved, be it IBM, Google, Microsoft, or other. So there would be us, there would be the client, and there would be a quantum
Right.
computing company involved. And that would make for a great press release, but also potentially a great use case and real problem to solve. And that's what we want to do at the end of the day, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we really want to solve business problems with technology, but you have to lead with the business problems, not the tech.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of our
Something that.
outcomes. That was one of our outcomes you may have noticed during our symposium last year. One of our tenets of success and themes around, besides making decisions quickly, was about starting with business problems to solve and not the technology.
Well, that's such a crucial ingredient in translation, right? Translation from the fundamental research into something that's useful in the real world. You got to start with as you said, sort of the prioritization of the business challenges, and then almost match make from the from the challenge to the potential tool or solution that the technology can provide. I mean, it's the reason. I mean, that I would say is the reason I have spent my entire career in emerging tech. I love that puzzle solving sort of exercise of connecting, real tangible value back to some sort of fundamental, unit of new knowledge. In your role as sort of shepherding emerging tech, I mean, it feels like we've talked about AI, we talked about quantum a bunch. That's almost like a huge 1-2 punch in terms of disruption. Do you think we're going to sort of maybe 5, 10, 15 years from now sort of go, wow, that was a crazy time, but everything's settled down now? Or do you think we're sort of just, this is the beginning of the new normal, which is one massive disruptive technology after another?
Well, look, we've definitely had a space between them in the past. Looking backwards, piece to PC, networking, internet, cloud, mobile. There I throw blockchain in there, metaverse, even spatial, then AI, Gen AI specifically. Let's keep in mind AI is 80
Yeah.
years old, not
Yes.
4 years
Yes.
old. So all my 30-year AI guru friends with PhDs, when the Gen AI thing exploded, just looked at me like, "What's going on with this?" This
Yeah.
is like people lost it. And now quantum and whatever compute later on, neuromorphic. I mean, there's a whole slew of future compute capabilities
Yeah.
coming. I don't think it ends ever. I think it just keeps up the pace, maintains as is. AI continues to help expedite all of it. At
Right.
the end of the day, we still have to hold the line on keeping your finger on the pulse of it, whatever the tech widget is. But someone has to translate all of that to business value at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
that's our role as trusted stewards of our clients' technology suites and helping them figure that out for ourselves, for our clients, and folks that are in my role. Really, that's what our value proposition is, to help identify what the technology is before they've even heard of it, make sure it's not disruptive to the business, and then figure out how to leverage it for themselves and our clients, as we've done quite successfully at KPMG, leveraging AI not only as a service to build clients for, but also as client zero for ourselves. We
Mm.
doubled down very early, late 22, early 23, and built out an AI framework that's supporting our entire business, right? Top down, every function, audit, tax, advisory, internally, just tools and solutions helping us use the tools to provide our services better, faster, cheaper, but also then share that knowledge with our clients so they can do the same and take advantage of this. We're a long way off before. There was a speaker at the symposium last week, Adam Shire, who not a lot of folks have heard of. Like, this dude invented Siri.
Yeah.
So he's kind of been at the voice rec AI thing for a while. Steve Jobs courted him for 30 days, by the way, before he actually sold the company to Steve. Adam has a very interesting perspective that I share, and having lived through it myself, yeah, I'm that old. The internet went through like decades, right? Early in '90s, we were talking about TCP/IP and DNS and
Yeah.
DHCP and web browsers and search engines and ISPs. We weren't talking about Uber or
Right.
TV on Netflix or anything internet based or payment systems. We were talking about infrastructure,
Yeah.
and that's where we are now. Still, I think with AI and now agentic, it's going to take another 10 plus, I think, before they're not talking about AI. They're talking about the products AI is
Right.
enabled.
The downstream. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
no one cares how Venmo works. They just wanna
Right.
send cash. No one
Yeah.
cares about PayPal, like how they work. We're still talking about how things work around AI.
Yeah.
MCP servers and agentic and agents, and like we're talking about the infrastructure, and non-techies just look at these conversations. I see them and it's like, "What? What is it?" Like, so we've got a ways to go there. It's early, and quantum again is in that same boat. But eventually these things
Even
have to lead.
earlier.
It is. So the trajectory is gonna be the same, I believe, but it's gonna be
Right.
just expedited as a result of AI and the humans species expectations have changed because we want things now.
Yeah, we
So,
do.
yeah,
Curious monkeys
exactly.
and impatient. Well, Richard, thank you very much. Thank you for the hospitality at Deer Valley. The symposium was really, really fascinating. I look forward to the consortium and continuing this conversation. I think you and Aaron and the rest of the team are doing a great job with quantum at KPMG. I'm really impressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things progress.
Thanks, Sebastian. Appreciate you. This is always fun. See you soon.
Thanks again to Richard Entrup for joining me. One thing that's going to stay with me from this conversation is his framing of the migration challenge, not as a question of when Q-Day arrives, but as a question of how long it takes a real organization to even find its cryptographic exposure, let alone fix it. He's been inside those organizations. He knows what that process actually looks like. And his answer is longer than most people think, which means the urgency is real right now, regardless of where the hardware timeline lands. If you want to dig deeper, the show notes for this episode have links to KPMG's Quantum Threat Brief, the QPrep Framework, and the joint KPMG IBM Kipu Quantum Research on Quantum Machine Learning, all worth reading alongside this conversation. You can find everything at newquantumera.com. While you're there, Sign up for the newsletter. It's the best way to stay current on what's happening across the quantum ecosystem between episodes. If you're finding value in these conversations, the most useful thing you can do is subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, wherever you listen, and share the episode with someone who's thinking about these questions. Word of mouth is genuinely how this show grows. Thanks once again to Richard and KPMG for the invite to Deer Valley. I had a really great time moderating that panel and with all the conversations I had while I was there. Thank you for listening. I'm Sebastian Hassinger, and this has been The New Quantum Era. Theme music by OCH. See you next time.